I used to believe that love was built in silence. Not the uncomfortable kind of silence, but the quiet understanding between two people who had chosen each other for life. I believed love was in routines, in sacrifices that went unnoticed, in staying even when the excitement faded. That belief shaped who I became. My name is Mariam, and for 15 years I lived my life as a woman who thought loyalty was enough. Every morning began the same way. The alarm rang before dawn, and before my feet touched the floor, my mind was already running through his schedule. What meeting he had, whether he liked his tie ironed a certain way, if he preferred tea or coffee that morning. I learned to move quietly through the house as if my presence needed permission. I told myself this was marriage, that love matured into responsibility. While he slept, I carried the weight of our life. I managed the household finances, paid the bills on time, tracked expenses, and made sure nothing ever fell apart. When he wanted to start his business, I used my savings without hesitation. When the business struggled, I reassured him, even as my own fears grew heavier. I was the woman behind the scenes, believing that stability was a form of love. But slowly, without warning, he began to disappear. Emotionally first, physically later. Conversations became one-sided. His responses shortened. His laughter, once effortless, became rare. When I asked if something was wrong, he smiled and said, "You worry too much." I wanted to believe him. Then came the changes that I explained away with excuses. A phone that never left his hand. Notifications turned off. New shirts, new cologne, sudden attention to his appearance. He started coming home late. When I asked why, he said work was demanding. When I suggested dinner together, he said he was tired. When I tried to touch him, he pulled away gently, politely. Rejection wrapped in kindness hurts more than cruelty. I blamed myself. I told myself I had become boring, that I didn't look the same, that maybe this was what happens when a woman gives too much of herself to others and forgets who she is. There were nights I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, wondering when he had stopped loving me. I never imagined the answer would be long before I noticed. The night he finally spoke, there was no argument to prepare me, no raised voices, no storm before the collapse. He sat across from me at the dining table, hands folded, expression calm, as if he were about to discuss the weather. "I don't think this marriage is working anymore," he said. I waited for the punchline, for the explanation, for the apology. Instead, he continued talking about personal growth, emotional distance, and how people change. He used words that sounded thoughtful, even mature, but none of them explained why my heart felt like it was being erased. I asked him if there was someone else. He looked away and said, "No, this isn't about that. That lie hurt more than the truth." That night I packed nothing. I cried quietly in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. I stared at my reflection and barely recognized the woman looking back at me, older, tired, and suddenly disposable. 3 days later, while he was showering, his phone lit up on the bedside table. I didn't plan to look. I wasn't that woman. But fate doesn't always ask for permission. The message was short. "Soon, we won't have to hide anymore." My hands shook as I scrolled. Photos, plans, conversations filled with affection he hadn't shown me in years. She knew about me, and she didn't care. I sat on the floor, my back against the bed, feeling the air leave my lungs. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just understood something very clearly. While I was trying to save a marriage, he was building a new life. The divorce papers came quickly after that. He was efficient, cold, polite. He spoke about fairness and moving on, about how he respected me. I signed because I was tired of begging to be chosen. I didn't yet know that signing those papers was only the first step into a much deeper betrayal, one that would push me from heartbreak into awakening. At that moment, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. They say divorce brings closure. For me, it brought confusion dressed up as politeness. After the papers were signed, he became unusually calm, almost kind. He spoke carefully, chose his words as if he were performing for an invisible audience. He said he wanted everything to be fair. He said he didn't want any bitterness between us. I wanted to believe him. We sat across from each other one last time in the lawyer's office, surrounded by beige walls and cold air. He avoided my eyes, focusing instead on the documents in front of him. When the lawyer explained the division of assets, he nodded quickly, as if eager to move on. I noticed something then, something I would later regret ignoring. He rushed. He didn't ask questions. He didn't argue. He didn't negotiate. At the time, I thought it was guilt. Now I know it was strategy. He insisted we keep things simple. Joint accounts would stay open temporarily, he said, just until everything settled. Credit cards didn't need to be canceled right away. It would complicate things, he explained. Business expenses still needed handling. Trust me, he said softly, the same way he used to say it when I handed him my savings years ago. And I trusted him, because trusting him was a habit I hadn't yet learned to break. In the weeks that followed, I tried to rebuild my life quietly. I avoided mutual friends. I ignored social media. I packed away photographs that reminded me of a woman who believed love was permanent. Then the emails started arriving. At first, they seemed harmless, routine bank notifications I barely glanced at. But one morning I opened one by accident, a luxury hotel booking confirmation. 2 names, his and not mine. My chest tightened. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Then another email arrived. A high-end jewelry purchase. A deposit paid to an event planner. A florist reservation. Each notification felt like a slow, deliberate slap. The final email made my hands go cold. Wedding package advance payment received. That was the moment reality shifted. He wasn't just moving on. He was using my financial identity to fund his future. Every card was still linked to my name, my credit score, my responsibility. While I was learning how to sleep alone, he was charging flowers, rings, and venues, without asking, without warning, without shame. I logged into my account and stared at the transaction history. Dates, amounts, locations, everything documented. I realized then that he hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He was trying to leave me with the consequences. I called him for the first time since the divorce. He didn't answer. I messaged him. No response. And suddenly, the politeness made sense. The rushed divorce. The calm behavior. The insistence on keeping accounts open. He thought I was still the same woman. The one who wouldn't question, wouldn't confront, wouldn't protect herself. That night I didn't cry. I sat at my dining table, laptop open, bank statements spread before me, feeling something unfamiliar rise inside my chest. Not anger. Clarity. For the first time since my marriage ended, I wasn't reacting. I was thinking. I realized something powerful in that silence. He believed the divorce freed him. He didn't know it had awakened me. And somewhere between those transaction alerts in that quiet room, I made a decision that would change everything, though he wouldn't feel its impact until the day he thought was supposed to be perfect. There are moments in life that feel unreal, as if the world pauses just long enough for you to question whether what's happening is actually meant for you. The wedding invitation was one of those moments. It arrived on a quiet afternoon, slipped under my door like an afterthought. The house was silent. No laughter, no footsteps, no voice asking where I'd been. Just me and a life still echoing with memories. The envelope was thick, heavy, elegant. I recognized his handwriting immediately. For a few seconds, I simply stared at it, my heart pounding as if it already knew what waited inside. I told myself it could be anything: legal documents, business papers, something that required my attention. But my hands were shaking when I opened it. Cream-colored card, gold edges, carefully chosen fonts. His name, her name. Together. My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't just marrying her, he was celebrating it. And then I saw the date. The venue. The audacity. I sat down slowly, the invitation resting on my lap like a weight I couldn't lift. It wasn't enough that he had left me. It wasn't enough that he had lied, cheated, and erased our marriage. He wanted me to witness his happiness. Or worse, he wanted to prove that I no longer mattered. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Not because it was funny, but because it was cruel in a way only someone who once loved you can be. I imagined him standing confidently beside her, pretending I was just a chapter that ended quietly, pretending my sacrifices never existed, pretending he hadn't built this moment on my patience, my trust, my financial stability. That night I couldn't sleep. The invitation lay on the table, untouched, like a challenge. I opened my laptop again. Transaction after transaction stared back at me. Catering, decorations, hotel rooms for guests, a venue deposit charged to my name. The realization hit me slowly, then all at once. This wasn't carelessness. It was entitlement. He assumed I would stay silent, that I would notice too late, that I would clean up the mess like I always had. I picked up my phone and checked social media for the first time in weeks. Photos of them together. Smiling, traveling, posing as if nothing had ever come before. Comments congratulating them, calling them perfect, calling it true love. No one knew the truth. And suddenly, I understood something that changed everything. I didn't need to expose him. I didn't need to scream or confront or beg. All I had to do was stop supporting a life that was never meant to include me. I folded the invitation carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. I didn't tear it. I didn't burn it. I kept it. Because sometimes the most powerful response isn't destruction, it's timing. That night, as the city slept, I made a list. Every account, every card, every financial thread still tied to my name. I wasn't angry. I was calm. And that calmness terrified even me. Because deep down, I knew this was no longer about heartbreak. It was about taking my power back, and I knew exactly when to do it. People think revenge is loud. They imagine shouting, public humiliation, dramatic confrontations, but real power, real control, is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It waits. After the invitation arrived, I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends, not my family. I carried the knowledge alone, letting it settle inside me like a steady flame that didn't burn out of control. Each morning, I went about my routine as if nothing had changed. I drank my tea slowly. I folded laundry. I answered emails. But beneath that calm surface, something fundamental had shifted. I stopped thinking like a woman who had been abandoned. I started thinking like a woman who had been used. Late at night, when the city outside my window was quiet, I sat at my desk with the notebook open. I wrote everything down: dates, account numbers, card limits, transaction histories. I read terms and conditions I had never paid attention to before. For years, I had trusted him with money the same way I trusted him with my heart, without protection, without limits. That mistake would never happen again. I contacted my bank, not to complain, not to accuse, but to understand. I asked calm, precise questions. What authority did I still have? What access did he still enjoy? What responsibility would fall on me if things went wrong? The answers were clear. As long as those cards were active, every charge, every expense was legally tied to me. I imagined the future he was building, brick by brick, on my name. And I felt nothing but resolve. I prepared everything in advance. I set alerts. I scheduled cancellations. I documented proof. I didn't rush, because timing matters more than action. There was a moment, late one night, when I hovered over the cancel button, my finger trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from memory. 15 years of habit doesn't disappear easily. I thought of the woman I used to be, the one who believed love meant endurance, the one who would have swallowed this betrayal quietly to keep the peace. Then I remembered the invitation, the gold lettering, the careless cruelty, and my hand became steady. I chose the day carefully, not out of malice, but justice. I wanted the truth to arrive exactly when the illusion was at its most perfect. I bought a dress. Black. Simple, elegant, honest. Not for mourning him, but for honoring myself. I rehearsed nothing. I planned no speeches. I didn't imagine arguments. Because I knew something he didn't. I wasn't going there to fight. I was going there to end something, finally and completely. The night before the wedding, I slept better than I had in months. There were no dreams, just peace. And in that silence, I knew the balance was about to shift. The morning of the wedding arrived quietly. The sky was clear, almost indifferent, as if the world had decided not to interfere with what was about to happen. I woke up before my alarm, calm in a way that surprised me. There was no heaviness in my chest, no trembling in my hands. Just clarity. I made my bed carefully, the way I always did. Old habits still lingered, but they no longer controlled me. I dressed slowly, choosing the black dress I had bought days earlier. It fit perfectly, not too tight, not dramatic, simple, confident. I didn't wear jewelry. I didn't need armor. Before leaving, I opened my laptop one last time. Every card, every account, every shared financial line. I didn't hesitate. One by one, I clicked cancel. No anger, no regret, no second thoughts, just finality. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath, and walked out of the house. By the time I reached the venue, the wedding was already alive. Soft music drifted through the air. White flowers lined the entrance. Guests arrived in elegant clothes, smiling, congratulating one another. It looked perfect. I stood at a distance for a moment, watching the scene like an outsider. This wasn't my life anymore. It was a performance, and performances depend on funding. Inside, I could feel the shift beginning. A caterer whispering urgently into a phone. A planner flipping through paperwork confused. A receptionist arguing quietly with staff. I walked past them unnoticed. Within minutes, the whispers grew louder. Payment didn't go through. Our system says the account is inactive. We can't proceed without confirmation. The illusion began to crack. I saw him then. He stood near the stage, dressed in his tailored suit, smiling confidently, until his phone buzzed. Once, twice, again. His smile faded. I watched as he stepped aside, his brows knitting together, his fingers moving frantically across the screen. Declined, declined, declined. Panic doesn't announce itself loudly at first. It leaks through cracks. The bride noticed next. Her smile tightened. She whispered to him urgently, her eyes darting around as staff approached them one by one. The music stopped. The decorator froze mid-adjustment. And suddenly the room was no longer festive. It was tense. I didn't move. I simply waited. Because this moment, this unraveling, wasn't chaos. It was consequence. The moment he saw me, everything else disappeared. The noise. The guests. The chaos unfolding around him. His eyes locked onto mine and I saw it clearly. The realization. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. He pushed past the planner, past the confused guests, his steps quick and unsteady. The confident man who had once spoken about moving on now looked like someone standing on collapsing ground. "What did you do?" he hissed, grabbing my arm. I gently pulled away. People were watching. The bride stood frozen behind him, her white dress glowing against the tension in the room. Her smile had vanished, replaced by disbelief. Vendors hovered, waiting for answers, payments, authorization, someone to blame. He leaned closer, his voice trembling now. "Fix this, please. This is just a mistake." I looked at him. The same man who once promised me forever, who had used my trust like a resource to be drained. For a moment, I thought of all the words I could say. The lies, the betrayal, the years I lost. But I didn't need many words. Power doesn't ramble. I met his eyes and said calmly, clearly, loud enough for him, and only him, to hear, "I stopped paying for a life that no longer includes me." That was it. No explanation, no accusation, no raised voice. The words landed harder than any scream ever could. He stepped back, stunned, as if he'd been struck. Around us, the wedding staff began packing up. Phones rang unanswered. The illusion shattered completely. The bride finally spoke. "What is she talking about?" He didn't answer her. Because he couldn't. I turned away then. I didn't wait for reactions. I didn't watch the fallout. I walked out of the venue with steady steps, my back straight, my heart light. Behind me, the wedding collapsed, not because I destroyed it, but because it was built on something that was never his to take. The world didn't end that day. It simply moved on, without me in it, without him at the center of my thoughts. I drove home with the windows down, letting the air wash over me. For the first time in a long while, my chest felt light. There was no rush of victory, no thrill of revenge, just a deep, steady calm. My phone began vibrating before I reached the end of the street. Once, twice, again and again. I didn't answer. Messages followed. Confused at first, then angry, then desperate. I didn't read them right away. That evening, I cooked a simple meal and ate alone at the table that once held two people and too many unspoken truths. I didn't feel lonely. I felt finished. Later, when the house was quiet, I opened my phone. His messages filled the screen. "Why would you do this? You humiliated me. We need to talk. You owe me an explanation." I stared at the words, recognizing the pattern. Even now, he believed I owed him something. I blocked his number. Not out of anger, but closure. Over the next few days, the truth unraveled on its own. Vendors demanded payment. Contracts were reviewed. Questions were asked. He had to explain things he never thought he would. The image he worked so hard to maintain cracked under scrutiny. The bride left. Not dramatically, not loudly. She simply walked away from a man who couldn't even fund his own promises. Friends chose silence. Others chose distance. And me? I chose peace. I met with my lawyer again, not to fight, but to finalize boundaries. Everything was documented, and everything was clean. For the first time in years, my finances reflected only my life. No hidden charges, no shared risks, no fear. At night, I slept deeply. Not because the pain was gone, but because it no longer owned me. I realized something important during those quiet nights. I didn't need him to understand what he did. I needed myself to understand what I deserved. People often ask what winning looks like after betrayal. They imagine justice as public shame, loud apologies, or a ruined reputation. For a long time, I thought so too. But real victory doesn't arrive with noise. It arrives with peace. Weeks passed after the wedding that never happened. Life slowly settled into a rhythm that belonged only to me. Mornings became gentler. Evenings became quieter, not empty, but calm. I rearranged my home. Not to erase him, but to make space for myself. I replaced the dining chairs we never used. I painted the walls a lighter color. I let sunlight in where I once kept curtains closed, afraid of what people might see. For the first time in years, I made decisions without asking permission. I managed my finances with confidence. I rebuilt my savings. I watched my credit score recover, not just numerically, but symbolically. Every responsible choice felt like reclaiming a piece of myself he never deserved. Occasionally, mutual acquaintances tried to bring him up. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need updates. The chapter was closed. One evening, while cleaning out old paperwork, I found our marriage certificate folded inside a drawer. I stared at it for a long moment, remembering the woman who signed it with hope in her heart and trust in her hands. I didn't cry. I smiled gently, because that woman survived, and she became someone stronger. I understood then that I hadn't ruined his wedding. He had ruined his future the moment he confused love with entitlement and loyalty with weakness. My single sentence didn't destroy him. It simply stopped protecting him from the consequences of his choices. Today I walk freely. No debts that aren't mine. No lies that keep me awake. No fear of being replaced. I didn't get revenge. I got my life back. And that was the real victory.